All right, hello everybody. I have a new podcast friend guest to introduce you to. This is Tiffany Kane. Hi, Tiffany.
Hello, Jill.
I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so happy to be here.
Thanks for saying yes.
Of course.
So, Tiffany, we go back years. Do you know how many years it is?
2018 or 19, somewhere in
Okay.
there.
So,
Maybe
wow,
even 17.
like 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so cool. So we met through the community that you and I are both a part of that really tries, I think if I were to explain it, we try to make it easier to be source energy. I like to call it God energy and the light of source energy, the light of God in our lives with as minimal trappings and silly kind of climbing or cultish nonsense and pedestals and bullshit and turbans and weird food habits, and we try to be really cool and not weird at all, because it shouldn't have to be weird for all of us to have better access to a better, I would say, transcendent version of ourselves. I want that to be easier for everybody. So I guess if I were to put in a nutshell what the community is about, it's that. I love our conversations. You're an educator, you are, I think, a researcher, you're a lifelong learner, and you have a very astute way of critical thinking, bluntness, intelligence, wisdom, humor, a lot of my favorite things to
Say more.
I know, seriously. I love our conversations, and I love that we can be a little bit rant-ish in a way, and I love that we have some overlapping or not beliefs, but like passions and interests. And I'm excited about our first topic today. But I guess you should offer, maybe, why did you say yes, Tiffany, to this invitation?
Well, the biggest reason, and I think I said this to you, is that um, ever since I met you, even before I met you, just was watching a lot of your stuff on YouTube, is what I did actually. I was introduced to you by a friend, and it was something where you were talking about the afterlife, and I was going through a big grieving process. And so I was very curious. I was looking for different ways for my experience to make sense. I'll just say that. And after listening to the first one, I think I watched or listened to every YouTube channel video you had. And then I finally just signed up for a session. I used to call them readings. I don't know if you even ever call them readings, but now I call
Call
it a
them both.
session.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I've been in the membership for a while, and that's just been really fun. And we've had a few sessions, and I've done some group things, and I'm excited to come see you in Idaho soon.
Yes, I'm so glad you're coming to Idaho to the retreat in June.
But
Yay.
the biggest reason I said yes is ever since I met you, I find that when I'm noodling on something or thinking about some big idea, very often I'm having a conversation with you in my head. So I thought, okay, let's just have it for real. So
I
that's
love
why
big
I said
ideas. I
yes.
love big ideas. I know we share that in common. We're also both moms, and I love those parts of our conversations too. I've always enjoyed our conversations about education and the education system. You have so many very novel, revolutionary, and evolutionary ideas related to teaching, learning, and education. So I've always loved that part of your passion and skill set too. Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome. So I think we have our topic for today. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Go.
So
Go, go.
do you want to tee it up or do you want me to tee it up and then you add anything that I
Why don't
miss?
you go, and then I'll have something to
Okay.
add.
So there's this, I have, someone told me it's pretty radical. I think it's pretty radical. One of the most powerful things we choose as humans is what we believe. What we believe that can't be proven, what is in the realm of faith, um, inner knowing that is difficult. You can't. There's no satisfying way through the scientific method to prove it. Those things shape so many powerful aspects of how we know ourselves, how we know others. Do we believe in a God, and what is our relationship and access to God? The beliefs are that we hold and operate are like the software that we run on our firmware as humans. And yet, beliefs are something that, in at least this age, don't tend to be something that are recognized as a choice. They are handed to you in some belief systems. They are basically told, do not question these beliefs. That's the last thing you want to do. It's dangerous to ask questions. It's dangerous to stray outside of these beliefs, or horrible things will happen to you. So when you look at it that way, one of the most powerful things we have, which is our beliefs, we often don't choose, don't consider, don't critically think about, and are just handed to. And I find that very unsettling. And there's another way to do this where we could actually carefully consider our beliefs and allow dialogue and create dialogue with others that are, I want to say, willing and able to have critical thinking about beliefs and consider and choose your beliefs. There probably isn't a perfect one, just like there isn't a perfect partner or a perfect diet, etc. But at least doing some discernment and kind of quality checks. What are the attributes of that belief? What are the downsides of those beliefs? What's the attributes and downsides of the communities? What does it say about the afterlife? If it's a faith based, there are just so many kind of litmus tests and uh, quality checks you could have about a belief system. And shopping for beliefs would be an amazing, empowering idea in this reality. But I recognize, and I've talked about this for years in our community, is that people think they are their beliefs. They've made this very interesting twist of identity that they are their beliefs. So of course there isn't an opportunity that is either taken or given to consider oneself that they are not their beliefs, they are the operator of their beliefs.
That's a really hard concept to get, right? When you've been, even if you've grown up in a stew of people telling you who you are all the time. And I think that's the biggest, the most powerful beliefs we can choose are the ones that follow the words I am, right? Not to jump on any, but I am. Whatever you fill in that blank with is going to greatly alter your experience as a human, right? And yet, so I think in one of our very first sessions, you said to me, I don't know if you probably won't remember because you do this all the time, but you had said to me that you saw that I had a really great way of trying on beliefs and then disregarding them. And I just thought everybody did that. I didn't know that was unusual at the time. Um, and one of the specific beliefs you and I have talked about that's very popular now is that everything happens for a reason, right? That's a big one. And I will say I grew up in a very traditional faith-based culture. And when I had, in between 2010 and 2012, I lost 3 people very, very close to me. And at that time, that faith-based culture, I just wasn't getting what I needed, right? So this was before I met you, and I stumbled across this everything happens for a reason belief. And for a very long time that served me. So I'm grateful that I had it. It was an upgrade from what I didn't have, right? And then when I met you and you were challenging some of those beliefs, I don't think you were challenging them. I don't think you challenged it at that time when I first met you, but I know in conversations since then, we've talked about some of the other ones, but that was a very popular one. And I no longer hold that belief that everything happens for a reason, but it served me for a time. So I'm grateful for it. And that's what we had talked about. You and I talked about that recently too. So I think the ability to be able to try it on, see if it works, if it's better, great. If it's not, pick something else, right? So that's kind of what I've been thinking about a lot lately since our last conversation.
Thank you for sharing that, Tiffany. I love that because you remind me of that, and you did it just recently in one of our community calls, because I do get so passionate about beliefs that I'm super excited about, or what about this? What about this idea? Does that help us feel closer to God? Does that help us feel like we have better access to a better version of ourselves for our own benefit and for the benefit of everyone in our lives and that we could come in contact with?
Hmm.
Um, this I forget about the fact that just because something is a super great idea, I'm not intending to like trash or demean or be like, well, that's a dumb idea. But we can get defensive almost of beliefs that have gotten us through, especially really, really hard times. So this fact for you that everything happens for a reason got you through a very difficult time in your life where there was tremendous grief. I'm happy that you had that, right?
Right,
Celebrate that you had that. And if it no longer serves you and there's something better, then
right.
I love the dynamic flexibility there to go, okay, I don't have to, it's not like you're kicking, something out of your life. You're just saying, I think I'm done with this. I think
Yeah.
it doesn't need to serve me anymore because now there's something better.
Right. Now I don't necessarily just bad things just happen sometimes, and that's just life. And that's where I am now. And I think the biggest, you know, the older I get, the less I know, right? I always say that to my child. I remember when I used to know everything. Like, I certainly don't feel that way anymore. The more I know, the more I don't know, it feels like. And so I am very cautious about saying, this is true, and shouting it from the mountaintops, because I might not believe that that's true in a couple of years, or even next month, or maybe tomorrow. I don't know. So maybe I'm a little too flexible now. I'm not sure. Um, but another one, if we're going to talk about the specific beliefs, right? The specific popular ones, and I know you get plugged in about this one too, is that Earth is a school.
Okay. I hate
Right, and
Yeah.
you talked about that quite a few times, and I again, that served me for a little while. That was a belief that served me for a few, more than a few years, especially because I am an educator and I do love to learn. And we were just talking about, I being on the steepest part of the learning curve most of the time is my happy place. If I'm learning something new, I'm learning a new vocabulary, or how does this work? So
Yeah.
that belief really worked for me. Um, Now where I am is, things happen in life and there's always an opportunity to learn something, but that's not why it happened. That's where I am right now. So I don't know if you wanted to say something more about that one.
No, I love that. And I appreciate you saying that. We could talk for a long, long time about that whole idea of Earth as a school, because I know people that are very attached to that idea. There's downsides to it, and that's one of my strengths, is seeing the downside of beliefs while appreciating that there are upsides. And then one of my other strengths is just for some weird reason, I have the ability to look at or sense what that belief, how it's structuring them, and how it causes distortions in them, and how they're taking something as innocent and benign as, well, Earth is a school, and I'm learning new stuff every day, Jill. Right? The biggest downside from my experience and my opinion is that where is your mastery when you are identifying perpetually as a student? And I
Right.
get so excited about people's mastery. I get so excited about what individuals were born just amazing at, right? A toddler that can reassure an adult that it's going to be okay, mommy, right? If they're in a horrible situation with, domestic violence or something, there are just some individuals that just have this transcendence about them to be patient or kind or wise or strong or brave. There's just so many gifts of godliness that we can just bring into this reality with us. So, with this belief of, well, Earth is a school, Most people don't operate that as, and I'm a teacher. Most individuals operate as, I'm a student and I don't know everything. That's another quirk of it that I find problematic because I I don't believe, I can't prove it, so it is just a belief. It's not a fact. I literally can't prove it, but to me it is a very high functioning truth. We it's impossible to know everything in this reality. So the downside is you'll never be done. If your belief is that Earth is a school, when are you done?
Right.
So I believe in reincarnation. I believe that as souls, we can create a whole bunch of experiences to have and to explore and to be curious and to share and to serve. Um, and I I believe that we get misled in a way into reincarnating unnecessarily with because of this belief that Earth is a school. Those beings as spirit, as soulful energy, will just keep reincarnating. And this is a rough place. Earth is hard, humanity is a hard ride. It isn't always what we want it to be. Some journeys are just really, really filled with so much pain and suffering. And the idea that that's because they haven't learned lessons is just so sad to me. That's the other thing that Earth as a School does is it leads an individual to interpret that if there is pain and suffering or lack of success by their own standards in their life, it must be because they need to learn something versus this isn't personal. Life being hard and difficult and painful may have nothing to do with anything you specifically did wrong. This is a rough place. It bangs us around and we get bumped and bruised and hurt and damaged in a way in this, and nobody gets out of here alive. I mean, I know that's kind of a silly statement, but no one gets out of here alive. What kind of school is that, right? So
So
reinterpret
that's how you graduate.
it. Right? Oh, and I hate that idea too. Oh my God, I'm so opinionated. No, death is not graduation because you're not ungraduated, right? Um,
Yeah.
but I love how you said it, Tiffany, that you have so much natural respect and your opinions don't come across as so divisive as mine do. And I love that about you. This notion that we can always learn. There's always an opportunity to learn and grow and do better. But that doesn't have to mean that Earth is a school or that you are a student or that someone else that has something figured out is your teacher.
It's interesting because if you are the student, if you put yourself, so I was thinking, so what's the upgrade? How is it an upgrade? What would that be an upgrade from, right? Because remember how I said before, I went from one to this one, everything that happens for a reason was an upgrade, and now I'm somewhere else. And I don't believe everybody has to go in the same order. I'm not trying to suggest that.
Yeah.
But it would be an upgrade from um, I deserve this, or or like there is a place where that would be an upgrade from feeling like you're a victim. It put when you feel like you can have the ability to learn something from it, there it does feel more powerful than
I agree.
just being a victim to something.
It's
So I
better
think
than
maybe
being
that's the
punished.
attraction to that belief. Like
Yeah.
so we've been thinking about and talking about shopping for belief. So what's the attraction? Why would somebody choose it? And then here's the downside, um, and how it can get kind of lost in the weeds.
Yeah.
And I had never thought about what you said before. No one chooses to be the teacher. It's so cool.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, so
and I think we have a responsibility to choose who our teachers are, right? Who do you actually want to learn from? If you are a student, an empowered student,
yeah.
right, you have to find the teachers that's teaching what it is you are actually trying to figure out or learn. Like I go shopping on YouTube all the time. I crochet, and I know which people are going to teach me the way that I can understand, right? So even if you are a student, you have to be responsible in choosing your teachers. So,
And please don't deify them. Just because they know
right.
one thing that
Yes.
you don't know does not mean they know
You
everything.
know everything.
Does not mean they're more evolved than you. Does not mean they're good at integrity
Right.
or anything else, right?
Right.
No, I like where you're going with this because it is. I like it is fun to play with. What would the belief that Earth is a school, what would that be an upgrade from? I agree with you that it would be an upgrade from, well, God is just punishing me, right? God just hates me, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is my karma. I must have been on the other side of this in another lifetime, and this is my boomerang effect that I'm going to be whacked, for this in this lifetime.
Right.
I guess another upgrade could be that you can't learn and grow in this reality. The belief that Earth is a school would be a huge upgrade from nobody can grow, nobody can evolve. We're just all these non-player characters that are stuck in time.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
The stickiness of beliefs, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. How do you, this might be an unfair question. I'm going to ask it anyway.
all right.
How do you explain? How would you try and explain how it's so easy for you to kind of go, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, everything happens for a reason. Actually, all of a sudden, at another point in your Tiffany going, actually, never mind. Maybe there is a better idea that it didn't happen for a reason. It just happens. And yes, people die and accidents happen and illnesses happen. And it just happened to somebody that I care deeply about, and it sucks, but I don't need a story around it. How does that work for you so easily?
I don't know that it's necessarily easy,
Okay.
but because I have thrown things across the room when having realizations about, oh
Mm,
my gosh, that's not true. All this time I believed it was true, and now I don't think it is. So um, I do it, and I think I do it well now, but I don't know if it's necessarily easy. But how do I think I really identify with, and this is something you talk about a lot too, about creator energy being curious. And so I have learned or taught myself, or it's just what I do. I don't know why I do it or where it started. I am constantly asking questions. And I feel like the higher the quality of the question, the better the answer you're going to get. And I always will, what else do I do? It's kind of just a thinking habit. I'll ask the question, but then I don't just leave it at a simple answer. I'll take it a step further. Okay, well, if that's true, then what? And then, or and why and why and why and why and why. So why is that true? And if that's true, so that's why I said in the beginning I don't. I'm very hesitant to say this is what I believe in. It's true for everyone.
yeah,
It must be, if it's true for me, it must be true for everyone. I don't do that. But a lot of times when I'm talking to friends or to people, or like they go, how do you come up with that question? Like, why did you even ask that? I'm like, I don't know. It's just what popped in my head. So a lot of it's just questioning. I
that's very.
question everything.
I love that, and I'm seeing the similarities, and another reason why why we get along so well. Because yeah, this ability to question our thoughts, the ability to question even uh, sanctimonious kind of beliefs and things like that is isn't easy, it isn't natural, it isn't a habit that most people have. But I agree with you. It starts with asking questions. And
Mm-hmm.
even people that I know that are stepping away from high demand religions like Mormonism, it started with questions, right? You described anger, and I think you said throwing things across the room. Is that
Yes.
a pattern with you? Is there a bit of anger? And it's almost, I sense that it was almost anger at yourself, like how could you believe this was? How could you believe this was true? Like, is there personal like frustration?
Yes.
Okay,
And no.
okay,
Um, hmm. What is the anger about? Well, we've talked about this, right? Anger often hides sadness. So that's my new set of questions, right? When I get really angry about something, okay, what am I actually sad about? And
Mhm.
so a lot of times I'll have a new, like, that's my line of questioning now. Okay, what if I'm angry? What am I really sad about? Be
Yeah.
angry, let it out, but then what's the real reason? So
Yeah.
sometimes it's about funny, I've never thought about this. So when I got really angry about the belief thing, I think I was sad. Oh, I'm going to cry about how much time I wasted.
Oh,
So
mm,
it's about wasted time,
mm.
actually.
And it would make sense that time meant everything because you were cheated of time with loved
Hmm.
ones. So it
Ooh,
has an
I
extra,
wasn't expecting
sorry if
that.
I really don't mean to. That's beautiful, Tiffany. Yeah. And that anger is so, it's so loving of, yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
So, um,
That's a big one. And you do ask good questions. I love your questions. That's another reason why I'm glad you're coming to the retreat in June. Is it okay if I make it a little bit lighter right now?
yeah,
Okay, I
yeah.
don't.
But can I say one more thing about the questions,
Yes,
though?
please.
I think being an educator and so often people try to make things more complicated, so it sounds like they're smart. And in my opinion, good educators actually take things that are complicated and make them simple. So that's something that I'm always trying. Okay, so here's this big hairy thing. Okay, what are the simplest? How do I boil that down to the simplest elements? And then how can we rearrange them or play with them? Or so that's another thing that I think I do.
So big.
And I think I've just done that naturally. I've been a teacher
Yeah.
since I was 3. Before I even went to school, I was having class on the bed with all my stuffed animals. So
I I love that you chose the profession of teaching because that is a natural gift that you clearly have. I share that with you. It's just so it feels so good to take something that you know is complicated or often misunderstood and just almost like having divine inspiration to assist you and well if, maybe if I start here it'll be easier. Maybe if we do this and then explain this then they'll go, "Oh," and that's so satisfying. Yeah. Um,
I'm sorry, I got you off track. You were going to say something. You
no,
want to
you're
make it
good.
lighter.
No, you're good. You're like, "Get to the lighter part, Jill. We wanna laugh." I have so much self-reflection in this version of my Jill, especially now in my 50s, that I am so painfully aware of a version of myself, especially as a young Jill. I hated to lose. I hated to be wrong. Um, so I had a pride, literally, kind of an ugly pride in being right. You know what I mean? And being righteous. So my version of what I would call conventional Christianity was quite judgmental. There was the egotistical sort of, well, I know the one true God, and I know I have the one true faith, and well, I really hope you guys figure it out. Kind of separation that I remember what that belief of conventional traditional Christianity felt like to me. And I remember it didn't feel as loving towards myself and towards everyone as my current version of what I still call Christianity, because it's definitely God based, and Jesus is right in there next to it. So, um, this this humility that somehow came around where now I'm not afraid to be wrong. I'm not afraid to be wrong for me. And as a unofficial teacher, if you will, in the community, I'm super intentional about offering it in a way of, hey, I've got this idea of a better idea. Or what about this? What about that? Does that work better? Does that work better? Does that work better? And it is my nature to be passionate about my favorite answer that's working really well for me. But I hopefully do a good job in trying to convey if you have something that works for you right now in place of that, I'm so happy for you. That's great. I don't want to be dismissive or disrespectful of a belief system that is working well for somebody. But I do take seriously this opportunity to offer a belief that, as far as I can tell, isn't on the planet. I'm not reading about it in books. I'm not learning about it from other teachers. It literally is coming from inspired ideas and just the way that I'm connected to God now. So it's like, well, what if that's not true? What if this is true? And it's like, whoa, whoa, right? So now I have humor with it. So For me, there's not an anger at myself. There's, oh my God, that's so funny, Jill, kind of moment. I'll never forget in a more kind of stereotypical metaphysical kind of experience of my Jill, of myself. I think I was in the shower or something, and I was playing with this idea that our higher self, to use that stereotypical New Age terminology, my higher self can't understand my negative thoughts. In other words, God only speaks in positive thinking. And I remember just being in the shower going, so God can't hear me if I'm being like, I'm so bummed it's, shitty weather again today. God can only hear me if I'm like, isn't it beautiful that the plants and nature are getting moisture today and it's cloudy? And I was like, that doesn't feel right. And then I felt my own answer, if you will, from what I call my God range and the God connection we all are of, yeah, that's just silly. The idea that God can only, interact with you through this narrow band of human language is just ridiculous. So, of course, God can access and understand our negative thoughts and our positive thoughts, and understand what we want. Just because we're thinking, wow, I'm kind of sick of the snow. Law of attraction and some of those ideas are like, oh, you want more snow? All I heard was snow. I can't understand. I don't want any more. And just let me give you more snow, like it's a lottery machine or something, a slot machine. So I started laughing at myself at the silliness of that belief.
I get that.
So I laugh and I go, and I'm like, oh, that was funny. That was funny that belief felt like progress at some point of me and didn't like get me through a hard time in my instance or anything. It was just something I was trying on. And then I'm like, actually, that doesn't even make sense to me.
Right. Yet at the same time, you and I have had conversations about how, because we've talked about my anger quite a bit, and how it's constricting, right?
Mm.
And not quite as open as a different, I don't know what you would call it, energetic pattern. I don't even know if that's the right words. But it's not quite as open as another emotional language, if you will.
It's not as curious, for
For
sure.
sure.
And I feel like we both value what we know as a godly trait of curiosity.
But that doesn't mean God only hears the big stuff, right?
No, yeah, everything. Everything. Yeah. I don't mind some anger though. I don't feel judgment about your anger. I feel like anger is useful and can be purposeful and can we don't want to wait. I don't want to waste time either. I don't want to waste time on silly ideas or bad beliefs that are not functional, and make it harder for me to be me, and make it more difficult for others to love themselves. I don't want a belief like that. This world is hard enough, right? What's interesting, and I'm curious if you have found this too, there are so many individuals that I tend to come across that either have found my YouTube videos or done a session with me or classes or whatever. They've been disenchanted by a belief system that they were told was true, were promised was true, or that they were in that bubble of needing it to be true. And they're sort of out there like, so what is true? What might be true? What is true? Tell me what's true. And I don't want to tell them what's true, but I'm happy to offer them what I have found, proven through now more than a decade of, if you will, research, field research, of what tends to work better given what their goals are.
Well, that's what's so amazing about you, because when people are in that questioning place, that is when they are the most vulnerable, I feel, to
Oh,
being taken advantage of spiritually. I don't know if that's the right word, but being taken advantage of spiritually and letting someone else hijack them. And that's another topic, probably not for today, but you and I are both fascinated with cults and how that all happens. But I think it's that kind of crisis that makes someone very vulnerable. to adopting a new dangerous belief system, I guess.
Yeah.
Or instead of dangerous, let's say unempowering. It feels empowering, but it's really disempowering belief system.
And they're speaking of shopping for beliefs, which is one of the kind of ideas that you were sharing earlier. Some of these belief systems that are attractive to, especially as somebody that's in a vulnerable place in their lives, they are sold really, really well. Lots of false promises, lots of false evidence, if you will, lots of careful language, lots of shiny kind of marketing and sparkly individuals that are kind of the face of that belief or brand or solution or tool. And I get really frustrated by that. Um, I understand, and the I have a I acknowledge the need to make money, but I don't want it to be at somebody's expense. I want it to be for somebody's benefit. And when it is a vulnerable individual or a vulnerable kind of audience situation, whatever, there's extra responsibility there on behalf of the individual that is saying they're there to help. I always wonder, it is the manipulative spiritual teacher or coach or whatever, are they aware of the manipulation that they're actually deceptive in what they're offering them? Or are they under this kind of spell too, where they actually believe it is helpful? And I guess we'll never know, but I'm constantly wondering about that in terms of cult or cult ish systems. Do they know they're lying to their followers?
I think
Or
it's
do
just
they
case
actually
by
believe
case
them?
basis because some of the things I think they might start out thinking they're doing
Yeah.
wonderful,
Yeah.
but there is a point where okay, you just crossed the line. You have to know you crossed the line.
Yeah. And then maybe they're in it too deep,
Mhm.
right? The following is too big. The lights are make them look so good, and they've got
Yeah.
100 volunteers following them around the world, and
Well, what's that sunk cost? Is that what it's called?
sunk cost. It's an
Where
accounting term.
you've put so much into something that you cannot walk away from it,
Yeah,
right? You just feel like you can't walk away from it.
yeah,
So I think that can go for both sides, but I don't, again, I don't know. This is
yeah.
just fun to talk about.
It is fun to talk about. No, I'm glad you're raising our anticipation of. I feel like we'll have several different episodes related to cultish and cult ideology, the downsides of it. It might be, I mean, if I were try to guess, it would probably be very validating to individuals that have been through that. I've definitely found that to be true as I have conversations about it. So I want that you and I are helping validate people's experiences, whether it is new or decades old, and they just haven't, they're so confused about it, right? Or those that are in the midst of it, really serious questions. Because given my own field research related to people stepping out of Mormonism. I'm in Idaho, and there's a high percentage of a high concentration of Mormons in Idaho. And it is fascinating how many devout Mormons I'm coming across that are, I don't want to term it a faith crisis because I don't want to presume, but they're in the midst of like, oh shit, like something like, and they look at me like, and then we have conversations, and I kind of listen to where they're at and am literally asking for divine guidance from the Holy Spirit. Is there some way that I can help this person? Um, in the midst of that process, many individuals coming out of a high demand cultish practice have a moment of, is all of what I believe true, or is none of it true? And they're not, those high demand religions tend to be so binary, so black or white, that there's like no space in the middle, or of well, maybe I'll just take what works. Maybe I'll take what works, and the part that feels completely fictitious and just, now that I look at it, just silly and stupid, I'll let that go. They don't feel that autonomy yet. They don't feel that authority because it's been never given to them. about the big things in life.
But
So you're like,
they've
"Dang,
never felt empowered enough to take it either,
yeah, that's
right?
true. That's true." And these are adults. These are highly successful individuals that have been in this thought bubble, kind of under the spell of these truths within that belief system, and they can feel very naked, very alone, um, and terrified. It's so sad. All I feel is compassion. I'm not waggling my finger like I could have told you that, you know.
Right, right.
Yeah, that's nowhere in me. I'm just like, I'm so sorry. How can I help?
And I think, okay, so this is leading back to another one of those beliefs, right?
Yeah.
Um, I think people who have been through an experience like that or going through an experience like that, just getting to the other side of the really hard part
Mhm.
will often hang on to the belief that we're all waking up. We're
Oh,
all waking up, right? Like that's the experience that leads to the willingness to we're all waking up and we're all doing and then they will go out and um, evangelize is the best word I can think of, but right? So it all does go together this idea of what we believe and who we define ourselves to be and how important it is to be what is the word I'm looking for?
a good
To
consumer?
a good consumer, but to be what is that word when you it's just not do your due diligence.
Discernment?
That's it.
Okay.
To be discerning
Mm,
about what you choose,
yeah,
because that's all your power. That's all the power you need is what you choose to believe.
so good.
I think.
I mean, in terms of shopping, right? Shopping for beliefs, most people have probably never given themselves the moment to say, what would a good belief system do?
Right.
What would it do? Right?
Let's
What
build
would it,
one.
how would
Can we
it
build one?
I've done it, right? I
Let's do
love
it.
I have mine I use, and
I
somebody else
know.
might be
I
different,
know.
but my rubric, literally, my criteria for an amazing belief system, and I am a believer, right, is that it helps me feel direct access to God. It helps me feel loved by God and loving of God in this world. Those are my top 3, right? I love the other parts about feeling transcendent and that we're more than our human experience. We're more than our family experience. We're more than our lineage. We're more than our knowledge. We are literally, there's opportunities for gloriousness and transcendence in everyone at any time. I love
Maybe that's the
that.
sniff test right there. That's the sniff test. Does this belief help me? What were the three things you said? Feel closer to
Direct
God.
access to God
Uh huh.
through myself, right?
Uh huh.
Direct access to God's love for me,
Uh huh.
direct access to God's love for all,
Okay.
and then the other bonus ones.
Okay, but those three, right? That's the sniff test. Does this belief that I'm about to adopt or that I've been operating from, does it help me do those three things? And that, I think I'm going to add that to that's going into
I
my
I love
mission
those.
bank.
I love those, and I love how I want it to be high functioning, right? I want that test, and I want the belief to be intelligent. I want it to be high functioning. I want it to be easy to utilize and access. I don't want it to be hard.
Right.
Um, yeah, I just, again, this reality is so harsh. I want the belief system, again, given that it's your software. It impacts so many facets of our lives and who and what we are in this world and how we are in this world. I want us being the most godly version we can be in our lives to be the easiest thing we have. So
Right.
I have ready criticisms for other beliefs, and I like we were talking about. I am fascinated by cults, and I think there's some cult documentaries I watch more than once. And so there are some atheists I'm very friendly with that are the most godly people I know. They want to leave everything better than when they found it. They have amazing integrity, and they don't need a belief in God to be the godly version of themselves. And I love that about them. Not all atheists are that way, right? It's not a, it's not a, it's a, it just can happen. But what I was going to say is, I have some atheist friends that have said, Jill, all beliefs are cults, all religions are cults. And that was a little like, ooh, that felt a little, but I get what they're saying,
I get it too.
and I'm like, oh, okay. But I mean, the downside to me, Tiffany, is that when I hear stories of individuals that have decided, okay, that faith isn't true, I'm not a Mormon anymore, it's all lies, it's all BS, da, 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 da. I wasted my life on this thing, misled my children, whatever. Then they jump straight to atheism, and they go right to that black and white. Well, none of it is true, so there is no God. And I'm just like, oh, is that the answer for you? Right? Is because there's somewhere in the middle where you can still believe in a higher power that is loving and loved, and benevolent and wants good things for all of us, and acknowledges that this world is just a little messed up. So even though God loves us, shitty things can happen to us in this world.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're all stories. Yeah. Wow. Does this feel like a wrap? I
Well,
feel like
just one more thing though.
yeah,
How
please.
about the belief that I can't be friends with someone who has a different belief than me? I think that's the most fascinating one of all.
And I want to add authentic friends, not fake friends.
Right.
I'm trying to save them.
I can only be friends with
I'm on a
people who
mission to
believe the same
baptize.
way I do.
Oh wait, I
What?
interrupted you. Please repeat that.
No, I like that. Just that thought. I can only be friends with people who believe the same thing I do.
Yeah.
Like that's challenging. Sorry, I interrupted you
No,
then.
no, no. I'm glad you said that, because the divisiveness, the exclusivity, the elitism, those are the bad people. We need to stay away from them. I can be friendly with them, but really, my real agenda is to save them and get them baptized in my church. I mean, yeah, it's so interesting. And again, I think the proof of the transcendence of literally what I call the Holy Spirit in humanity, is that even in the most repressive religions, or lack of any religion, we can be good. We can be loving. We can be kind and compassionate and wise. Maybe not consistently, but in moments. So even those beliefs, even that software, doesn't block us from being special and amazing and just glad to have around.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Jill. This was fun.
I'm so glad you
Our
were
conversations are always fun for me. I don't know if anybody else will be that excited about it, but I had a good time.
I loved our conversation, and I'm excited for others. And I love that this was our first one. I feel like it went well. I hope that the audience enjoyed it. For those that are listening, thank you so much for commenting. As you may know, if you've experienced some of my other conversations, especially when we have the first one, that we're kind of getting in a good rhythm. I love the rhythm that we had today, and I do expect it will get even smoother as we go forward. We did talk about a lot of topics today, and I do expect that as we go, we'll be a little bit, I want to say, neater in our topic set. And anyway, I hope that everybody enjoyed it. You got something out of it. I would just ask everyone to, if you liked it, thank you for letting us know that you liked it or what you liked about it. And thank you for liking, subscribing, following, commenting, all those things. If you really enjoyed a certain part, make a note of it and maybe send it to a friend that you think would enjoy these conversations. We're hoping that they're empowering, and we're always hoping that they're loving and filled with compassion and wisdom. Thanks so much,
Oh,
Tiffany. Love you, sister.
all right. Thanks, Jill.
Bye, everybody.